Hey guys, today we're back looking at another cool and exciting watch. This one is a vintage classic, which I really like. It's one of my favorites. This is the Omega Seamaster Professional 300M 253180, otherwise known as the original Bond watch. Let's take a look. All right, so the box is the same white outer box as the other older generation Omega watches came in, and it has like this silver, looks gray, but then under light it has like a reflective silver property. Omega logo, pretty cool touch. Same outer box as my 2220.80. So here's the original Omega red watch box that it came in. And honestly, I'm surprised it's not deteriorated as bad as the last one I reviewed. This one is actually in pretty good shape for a much older watch. This model started off in 1995 as Pierce Brosnan was portrayed as James Bond or Agent 007 in the movies. And that's how this watch got the nickname the Bond watch. This particular one was purchased in 2003, and I think for a watch that old, I think this box held up pretty well. So you get the warranty, chronometer, certificate, and the pictograms in this nice little Omega wallet. Very cool. And the operating instructions in this kind of old school textbook format. It's actually pretty cool that it's a hardcover book, but it's definitely something that looks like it's out of the 90s, which is a cool blast from the past. All right, you have this cool silver Omega medallion on top. Nice little touch. Let's open it up. And there is the watch, guys. Very cool. Looks like a premium little jewelry box with the watch sitting in there. I really like that. So you can actually pull this up on the box and you'll see some spare links down there. Really cool. And there is the watch, guys. Absolutely stunning. And I love this. I mean, it has such a cool vintage look to it. You still had the aluminum bezel. This is the first Seamaster 300 Professional. It's a classic, and I think that this is one watch that will always remain a classic and always be sought after. The prices of these obviously have only gone up. Right now, they're not too bad. The average price of these are hovering around $3,000. So if you do see one for less than $3,000, definitely jump on that. I was close to I'd say closer to the mid 2000s is what I paid. Anything under $3,000, in my opinion, with full box and papers is an amazing deal. And if you can get something even cheaper than that without box and papers, still a pretty good deal, but just go with a trusted seller. I mean, James Bond just kind of made this watch what it is. You know, this is the original Bond watch. If you compare it to my other 2220.80, you'll notice that there are some pretty significant changes. And number one being the movement. And because of the movement, it is a little bit thinner than that other watch that I have. And this one actually uses a modified ETA 1120 caliber movement, which is still a pretty good movement. It actually keeps really good time, and it's very durable and very cheap to maintain. It actually has a better rating of about +4 or -6 seconds than many other watches from that same era. And the reliability on this movement is actually very high, much higher than the Rolexes of the time. And another thing I like to compare with Rolex on this is the bracelet. Rolex bracelets of this era were actually pretty cheap, I would say. You didn't get solid end links like the Seamaster has, and you didn't have this 5-link construction or this level of quality for this price. I mean, this was, at the time, it was selling around $1,300, or I think in 95 when it first came out, it was just over $1,000. Around 06, they raised the price to about $3,000, $3,500. And at that time, a Submariner was about $7,000. And I could say the quality of that felt kind of inferior to the quality of these for the time. And they were roughly half the price of the Rolex, which is pretty impressive. And you still get that same 300 meters of water resistance. I mean, this is a true diver. And that beautiful wave dial. This one, you can see that the bezel is fading a little bit. The blue is not as dark. I recently had my 2220.80 refinished. So it had a new bezel insert and all the scratches got buffed out. And something about this one, as it ages, it just kind of looks cool. I just like the fact that it's a little beat up, you know? Like, it has a few scratches on it. Very nice bracelet, but definitely scratched up. But it's cool, you know? And you can see right there, the back of the case, you have the seahorse, and it says Seamaster with the wave in the background. The other one I have has a bigger seahorse, and you don't get the waves on the back. But really cool watch. And you can see that the indices are printed on. Same with the Omega logo. Unlike the 2220, which has the applied indices with the surrounds and longer handset, and it also has the Seamaster written right under the Omega logo, which is in red letters. This one has the white letters with the Seamaster at the bottom, and the Omega logo on the newer one is an applied logo, which is like a silver color, and this one's just a white printed on. In a way, this kind of reminds me of my SKX, just kind of upgraded. Both bulletproof watches with printed on indices, printed on logos, very basic bare bones, aluminum bezel. You know, it's kind of like a no no frills diver. The Omega definitely feels superior and of a higher quality, but they kind of give me the same vibe and the same feeling. Like if I was wearing either of these watches, I would still get kind of like an old school no frills diver feel. It's not fancy with like ceramic bezels or applied indices, and sometimes you kind of like that basic stuff. It just, you know, it makes you feel a little more grounded, just a little more vintage feel to it. This is my 2220.80, which recently got refinished, and you can just tell that it looks basically like a brand new watch. You know, it's really cool. It's kind of like getting an old new stock. You could experience everything from over a decade ago all over again, just like how it was. So right off the bat, you can see the bezel is much darker. The color is much more full versus the 2531 over here. And also you can see the difference in the indices, the longer handset, the applied logo, and the red Seamaster logo. And here's thickness side to side. The old ETA movement is much thinner, as you can tell. And there you go. It's a better way to compare. But it's not too much thicker. I mean, you get the coaxial movement in this one, so it is an upgrade, but still. And there's the case back that I was talking about. You get the big sea arrows in the back versus the waves. This is the Pierce Brosnan era versus the Daniel Craig era, as he wore this in Casino Royale. But this was used throughout pretty much all of Pierce Brosnan's movies, except the first one actually had a quartz version of this watch in the first one, but still the exact same watch, just different movement. And this watch was in all of Pierce Brosnan's other movies, this exact model. So it's very highly sought after right now. I think people that grew up in that era are now getting older and have disposable income, so they're all chasing this watch, which I think is really cool to see this watch shine now versus just Rolex everything. You know, it's really cool to have Omega in the spotlight for once. All right, let's get it on wrist and see how it fits. All right guys, here it is on the wrist, and feels perfect, feels right at home. It's actually much lighter than the 2220.80. That could be because of the movement. It does feel lighter. Like I said, it has a vintage charm to it. It's just so cool. It just exudes class and cool. I don't know what it is. I think it could be the Bond reference, the fact that this is the original Bond watch. Pierce Brosnan really increased the popularity of this watch when he wore it on screen, and it still has that reputation to it. It's still, you know, a hardcore diver, which is essentially bulletproof. I mean, it just does everything so well. It also sits a lot closer to my wrist, feels a lot thinner, and this is something that I could see myself using as a cheap, not necessarily cheap, but not necessarily a beater either, but kind of like a nice everyday watch, which you're not freaking out over because it's not a ceramic blinged out diver that has a value of over $10,000. I mean, it's a really cool watch that you can wear every day, and it kind of flies under the radar. It's not too showy, and people will just think it's like an old diver watch. No one would automatically assume that you're wearing a really expensive watch on your wrist. The Omega is kind of well known, not as well known as Rolex, I would say, but people will still recognize it, but not the ones that don't really pay too much attention to watches. They would probably only recognize Rolex or the like. Really cool watch though. I'm really in love with this piece, guys, and I could see myself making this my new daily just to like beat around and throw on instead of the SKX. Really cool. How many Seamasters can a guy have? I don't know. I'm a huge James Bond fan, and I'm also a huge Omega and overall diver watch fan, so that is going to be tough to see how I can manage this collection, but I see a lot of Seamasters coming, guys. All right guys, let me know what you think in the comments below, and hopefully I'll have some more really cool watch videos coming up for you guys. All right, see you guys next time.